Hey everyone, I'm super excited to finally show you my finished winter wardrobe. I've been working off and on this 4-piece mini collection for about 2 months now, and it's such a relief to be able to finally say I'm done. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So a while back I showed you my winter wardrobe plans. It consisted of 2 blouses, 1 dress and 1 skirt. All 4 garments from, surprise surprise, Burdastyle. Yes, I am a huge fan and I tend to go back in all issues and usually find something new that I want to sew. So this collection is a mix of newer and older patterns, and the one I'm wearing right now is a blouse. This is actually the 4th time I'm making this particular blouse pattern. Now usually I'm not that sort of person who likes to do the same pattern over and over again because, you know, I get a little bit bored, to be honest, but this pattern has been so versatile for me, and I've done it as a shirt dress, a silk blouse with a Peter Pan collar, a silk sateen blouse with puff sleeves, and now a simple cotton voile blouse with a little mandarin color, and all based on the same pattern. So I think it's a bit versatile, so I don't really feel like I'm doing the same thing over and over, even though granted it is the same pattern. And the colorway is basically like navy and cream, and I think they really go well together. And this is one of the best fabrics to work with. It doesn't really disappoint you, just like I do love working with Liberty Lawn fabrics when making blouses, because it's so easy to sew. You won't have any like pain or headaches when you, for instance, when at least I'm working with silk fabrics and chiffon fabrics. They can be a bit hard to work with, but usually this kind of cotton lawn and cotton voile is usually very kind to me. And it has just bust darts and a rounded hem. It has a mandarin collar, so it's not like a classical standing collar that you would have on a dress shirt. So it's actually not attached on top of the button placket. Instead it is closed inside the facing, so it looks like this, and then the mandarin collar back part is hidden by a bias tape strip, which is a nice detail that you will find a lot of ready to wear. And also Burdastyle recommends this for a lot of the blouse practice. And while I tend to disagree with a lot of Burdastyle suggestions, this one I definitely agree with them. It does provide a really nice finish. As for stitching the hem, I used my favorite narrow hem technique, which basically is that I first sew a row of stitches quite close to the edge, about 1 centimeter. Then I fold at the stitch line, press, fold again, using the folded edge as a guide, so it will become a really narrow hem, and then I stitch over it. And I've actually just recently done a tutorial because I thought it was time to do that, because it's a method I've probably used for say 20 years now, so I figured I should do a tutorial. I know there are a lot of other ones as well, but you can go to my blog thelaststitch.com and find that particular tutorial how I do narrow hems, and also there you get some really nice bonus info as well on how to avoid twisted hems when you're sewing on lightweight fabrics. My favorite trick for that, so hopefully you find that useful as well. Yep, I'm really happy about my first garment, and no hassles with this one, so that's a nice thing as well. And I'm also wearing kind of a matching skirt. It's made of dark navy wool fabric. It's a designer fabric from Italy that I was able to source here locally. It's so nice. It has like a soft felted finish to it, and I think it has some liquor as well. It's just one of those fabrics where it's just, oh, it's so dreamy and soft. I think it's regular wool, but with a little bit of imagination, I might pretend that it was actually a little bit of cashmere in it as well. And again, this pattern is from Burdastyle. It's from the August 2017 issue, which I think is one of the best Burdastyle issues I've seen in years. So I just love this issue. So many stylish things. I could definitely keep myself busy sewing from this magazine for years, to be honest, because especially sometimes I'm quite slow, so it will probably take me that long to actually finish all the garments. This skirt has pleats in the front, but what really drew me to this pattern are the straps on the sides. As you can see, they are really nice and very decorative. They are supposed to be done with sewn buttonholes. However, since the wool fabric is quite thick and it also has the seam allowance inside, I know by experience that trying to achieve nice finishing on buttonholes when the fabric is so bulky is usually quite tricky. So I decided to cheat a little bit, and instead I added just snaps and so and then a button, just decorative button on top. So just not having to end up with a kind of a mess that it could have been if I had gone crazy just trying to sew buttonholes on this thick spongy fabrics, because at least for me it's really hard to be successful on that on sewing machine. But if you have any tips on how to successfully sew machine buttonholes on this kind of fabrics, especially this close to the seam allowance as well, please tell me, because that's something I've never ever been successful with. Neither automatic or manual buttonholes for that matter. Also it has some top stitching, and if you're curious about how I do top stitching, well, I've done a video about that where I show my best tricks and how to use different threads to achieve different effects, so that will of course be linked in the description section again. And I just love this skirt. It's so soft in the fabric, so I've been wearing it a lot lately, and it's absolutely, it's structured but still super comfortable, and it's really nice on the body. I would say one thing, as you can see there are seam allowance, and that hits the widest part of the bum, and it's also top stitch and folded, so it does create a little bit of a bulky finish. So especially with the thick fabric, it's not quite smooth, to be honest. It could look a little bit better, but that for me is a minor detail. I just love the skirt and I can't see any reasons to complain about it. And this is garment number 3, a white eyelet blouse. I found this fabric when I was fabric shopping with a sewing friend that I met online named Esther in Barcelona the last year. And of course links to her blog will be in the description section. And I just fell in love with this fabric. It's absolutely gorgeous. I do like eyelet fabric in general, but sometimes, you know, they can be a bit like cutish and a little bit sweetish, almost a little bit childish in some ways. But this fabric to me just feels more modern because it doesn't have a lot of the delicate embroidery. It's a bit more streamlined, and that's why I fell for it. And this is the second time I make this pattern, and this is a great example of how your fabric choices so much determines the end result. So last year I made this exact same pattern without any alterations using a soft Liberty Lawn fabric, and that shirt actually I would label, you know, it's fitted but, you know, quite loose fitting, just because the fabric properties is so much different. This eyelet fabric is actually quite stiff and rigid, not uncomfortable but stiff, so even though it's the exact same pattern without alteration, this one actually feels a bit more tight fitting, to be honest. Not that I mind, because I do think it fits me well, and I've done a lot of alterations to make sure that it fits my particular body, so it's not that, but it definitely a very different feel, even though it's the exact same pattern. So that's always something to be mindful as well, and something that I keep on learning, you know, how much my fabric choices determine the end result. And I also learned one hard lesson, you know, every time I feel like I'm doing sewing and then sharing it with you guys, I always have something that just needs to be addressed because I just messed up. And in this case, it was so annoying and I hadn't expected either. And I've just recently switched to using the Clover Chaco liner pen. It's like a combination of a tracing wheel and a pen. It's a great marking tool, and I was recommended by a fellow sewist here on YouTube, and I've also done a blog post where I've done a comparison between that and tracing wheel and tracing pen, and overall I'm really happy about the pen. However, when I did my tests, and I also used it for the wool fabric on this skirt that I did, I noticed that the Chaco liner was very easy to remove. And in the past, when I've sewn eyelet fabrics, I've had the issue of not getting rid of all the colors when I've been marking the dots. So I figured, well, this Chaco liner pen, this one is very easy to remove, right? So I cut out the fabric, used some blue Chaco pen, and then I think I made the biggest mistake, and that was that instead of sewing the dots straight away and then just wash it away, I let the fabric sit on the cutting table for almost a week, I think, and then I began sewing the blouse, and so I tried to, after I sewn the dots, I just tried to rub it off. It didn't remove any color whatsoever, so I figured, okay, as long as I don't press on it, because obviously iron will fixate any type, even though you're doing chalk line, it will fixate the color, and you will probably just never ever get rid of it. And that has been the case before when I use tracing paper and similar stuff on eyelets. So I think, okay, yeah, but as long as I don't press it, so as soon as I sew the dots, I just will wash it with washing powder, just to make sure that it will disappear. However, I did that and nothing disappeared. So as obviously this is white fabric and it's quite transparent, so there was a lot of blue blue color showing through on the eyelets. I was cross because I thought I'd done everything so right, but I think it was a combination of me not just removing the chalk straight away after I've marked it, and secondly, I do think that white eyelet fabrics does soak in the color in a very annoying way, which I've obviously learned the hard way. So next time I think doing, you know, like tailor tacks, that was probably the only way to avoid this problem. So I will just keep away from any type of color markers when I'm working with eyelet in the future. Now you wonder, well, how did it go? Well, I literally spent over an hour with various stain removers, soaking, gently rubbing, soaking, gently rubbing, washing again, and you can still see some remains of blue tint, especially around the hem. But overall, I think that by time it will disappear a bit more, but you know, if you look close, you will see the blue tint. That's just how it is. I should also mention about the eyelet blouse that I used silk organza to interface the button placket and the undercolor. And I really recommend getting silk organza, or cotton organza for that matter, if you want to stabilize your fabric and don't want to mess up with fusible interfacing, especially when you're using, you know, delicate fabrics, transparent fabrics such as silk sheer, and also obviously eyelet fabrics. I was really happy with that. And now finally the fourth garment, and this is definitely my favorite garment. Again, a Burdastyle pattern. This one is a pattern from 2008, and I've been tempted to make this dress for just as long as that, but now it finally happened. So I'm super glad that I still hang on to my older Burdastyles. I used to throw them away, but now I save them. And this dress is made of a wonderful wool jersey. The design is called Marius, and it's a very common knitting technique and knitting style from Norway. So I was really excited to see a fabric in that same design because I love the style and I hate to knit. So this is a great way of me being able to wear something just as beautiful but without having to do all the hard work. And the fabric is a nice wool jersey, and it has a little bit of a drape in the front here, and that creates a certain pouch around the stomach, which I think makes the dress even more comfortable and really flattering in that sense. The neckline is done by a combination of folding and using strips. So I've actually done a tutorial about how to make this kind of necklines. It's really useful whatever you're doing, twist tops, any type of drape tops. This is a great technique, and I will post this tutorial in just a few days after this video is published, so go to my blog, thelouststitch.com, and check that out. It will be up in a matter of days, and it's a really great method that provides very nice results when it comes to this type of neckline, which can be a bit tricky to sew otherwise because it usually have all the drapings and twists and things. So I really like this method. It's a version of the one that Burdastyle recommends, so it's my only twist on that one. And this dress is obviously really simple. I think the fabric makes it stand out, and it's also actually surprisingly easy to assemble as well. Sometimes when Burdastyles make this kind of draped things, there's a tendency that, you know, it forces the gathers to just fall out like this, and you will end up with a neckline that sort of twists outwards. So I've had this happen with a dress previously with a similar design, but this one is just way better construction. That is one of my pet peeves actually, when pattern designers make a dress that might look good, but the construction techniques offer some real issues when it comes to the finished product. So I think you really need, when you're making pattern and designing pattern, you also have to be mindful that the construction process actually lend itself to a good wear experience. So that's one of my pieces, but this one I think Burdastyle actually managed to solve that dilemma in a really nice way. So that was my 4-piece winter wardrobe. Now I am soon about to plan into spring, and stay tuned for an update about that, what I'm planning. And if you haven't already, please subscribe for weekly sewing videos from yours truly. And well, thank you so much for watching, stitch safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye!